Welcome to my November video newsletter. I really appreciate you following along with Fit Into It. My intention with Fit Into It is really to bring mindfulness and meditation to our world because I feel like we need to slow down more and more these days, and we're so bombarded with stimulation in our world right now, whether it's from our iPhones or Android, whatever phone you have, the news, video games, whatever it is. There's so much technology and so much that's pulling us out of the present moment. And so mindfulness and meditation are these really simple and in theory, and yet somewhat difficult practices to implement, especially this day and age when we feel so pulled to do other things and it feels like slowing down and just being here and now sometimes doesn't feel like it's enough because we've got our to-do list constantly going in our head. And yet the reality of it is that the only moment we ever have is right here and now. And the more we can bring ourselves back to the here and now, the more we're actually going to be living our life to the fullest, to its fullest potential. We'll be reaching our fullest potential because we can only do that here and now. I really love the saying, take care of the moments and the years will take care of themselves. Because the more we can tend to this moment and this moment, each evolving moment, the more the years will take care of themselves. And I read a book a few months ago by a man named Mark Nepo, and it's called The Exquisite Risk, and it's a really beautiful book. Mark Nepo struggled with a brain tumor for a few years and went through intense treatment and, thought that he might die, and he came out on the other side and and lives life in that way with just taking the exquisite risk of living here and now to the fullest. And one of the things he says in his book is he talks about living life at the pace of creation. And I love that reminder because life is being created in each moment anew. It's this new moment that's never ever been before, and the evolution of our world, of our universe. As far as we know, this moment has never been here before. And as soon as we start to talk about it or feel into it, it's a new moment. And if we can live life at the pace of creation, so as these moments are opening, we will be fully open to our lives. And it does take a mindset shift because we are so conditioned to always think about the future or maybe ruminating about the past, and that being here and now is the last thing that we want to do. And yet that's where our life is. And so I just wanted to start with a little mindfulness practice that if you're watching this video, we can just do together. And this is something that you can do in any moment of your life, of just taking a pause, So we just tune into this moment, tuning into the breath, noticing what it feels like to breathe in and breathe out. And on the exhale, imagining that you're letting go, just letting go of tensions, letting go of things you have to do. And it helps to notice what's going on around you. What sounds might you hear right now in this moment? Noticing what you feel in your body. What does it feel like to be in this body right now? And seeing if you can let go a little bit in your body and just allow your bones to hold you up. So it's like you're just trusting your body to just be here, can stay upright, and you can be relaxed. And then we also remember that sometimes with meditation and mindfulness, relaxation isn't the end result, and that's okay. We're really becoming curious about our experience. And as we become curious and as we allow things to be, sometimes they do loosen up. Sometimes they get a little tighter. Sometimes it stays the same. And it's just an allowing, or just letting things be without having to fix it or change it. And so I invite you to just take 2 more full breaths, just really feeling the breath as it comes in and out. And then opening your eyes if your eyes were closed. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about caring without controlling. And this is really a topic that's near and dear to my heart, because given that I've been sick for the past 6 years, like really disabled, it's been very hard to let go of that need to control, especially given that it's something that I have no idea what it is. So this element of surrendering control while also caring is a balancing act. And it's something that takes practice, and it really is, it's rooted in mindfulness. It's rooted in this awareness of what is actually here and now, what's going on in our bodies and our lives and our relationships. So it starts with being able to see things clearly and not pushing anything away, not pushing maybe the tension in your relationship, not pushing the turmoil in our world, not pushing the anxiety away. It's first kind of coming right up to it and saying, okay, this is what's here right now. This is the truth of our world right now. And in seeing that truth, though, we see that it's not all bad. We see that there's so much good as well. There's a lot to care for. There's a lot to tend to. There's a lot that is deeply struggling and suffering that needs our care and attention. And there's a lot that's beautiful and wonderful, and that needs our care and attention too. So we give our attention over to what life is presenting to us. And this need to control an outcome is just, it's natural. It's a natural tendency to want to do that. Control gives us an element of safety, gives us a feeling of safety. When we know what something is, or when we feel like we fully understand something in the level of our minds, it gives us a sense of safety. And when we understand something in our mind, sometimes we feel like we have some control over it, And yet so much of our lives is not fully in our control. And even saying that, some fear comes up within myself, because I'm somebody who wants to be in control. As a gymnast, I had complete control over my body. And most athletes do. When we train our body in a particular way, we start to feel like we master the body and we can make it do whatever we want it to do. And in some ways, that's really wonderful. And that's why we train in particular ways as athletes. So we do have that kind of control when we need it. In the performance arena, when we need to perform well, we're able to do that because we have some physical control. And yet, sometimes what life teaches us is that we don't have control. We may have thought we did. And I know I can speak from my own personal experience with this, because I did think that I had full control over my body for so much of my life. I did gymnastics for 21 years, and then I did triathlons, and I hiked mountains, and I could push my body as far and as hard as I wanted to push it. And until I couldn't, until I could not control my body anymore. As much as I tried to do visualization and positive thinking and all of these things, the body, my body, was exhausted, and it didn't obey me anymore. And so that was a hard thing to come to terms with, and it's still a challenge. It's hard when our bodies don't do what we want them to do. And so that's when a different approach comes in handy. That's when life starts to teach us that maybe you don't have all the control that you thought you had, which is actually ultimately a liberating lesson, because the less we're trying to control our lives and manipulate it to be exactly how we want it to be, we open to infinite possibilities, really. And sometimes in those infinite possibilities, there's a greater good that is served. I remember my little sister had a little quote on her refrigerator years ago, and it said something along the lines of, "Let go of the life you have planned and open to the life that awaits you." And it just kind of gives me chills just even saying that, because it is so easy to have this one direction. We're told to set goals and don't stray from that path. At any cost, you're going to achieve this goal. And that has its place. There is a place for perseverance and determination and a relentless, I'm not going to give up on this because I care about this. And yet, if we get so tied to an outcome or so tied to a way that we think things should be, we inevitably suffer. And I know that has happened in my own life, wanting to look a certain way, needing to eat a certain way, wanting things to be a certain way. It has to be this way. And you feel like your life just gets tighter and tighter, and it manifests in your body, and your body gets tighter and tighter, and the way you view the world gets smaller and smaller. Until eventually, and maybe you will be one of those fortunate people. Sometimes I feel like being sick has been a curse, and sometimes I feel like, well, actually it's liberated me in many ways, of letting go of how I think things should be and opening to a greater good, and settling into that prayer of, may this serve the greatest good. May this serve the greatest good. Sometimes that's all we can pray for. And in my mind, that's enough. That's enough. We may not know what the greatest good is. We may have our small little plan of what we think is the best for us, and yet the greatest good may not be that small, narrow path. And as we start to trust this prayer and we lean into this, just caring for our lives without having to control it, as we trust that, okay, this prayer of may this serve the greatest good, there can be some excitement in that. Like, what does that actually look like? What is my life going to unfold to serve the greatest good? And, the other day I was doing an insight meditation, which was more just meditative inquiry of, what can I trust in? What can I feel safe in? And that's one way of meditating, is just kind of sitting and asking a question and not trying to answer it at the level of the mind, but just kind of settling in the body into what the question is. And it just kind of came through me that there's a safety in insecurity. So there is a safety in uncertainty, or a safety in feeling insecure, in a sense. And it was just an interesting thing that came up, that there's actually safety in uncertainty. Because sometimes we become so certain of how things are going to be for the negative. Take the pandemic, take the election, take all these things that we can start to catastrophize over and think that something really bad's going to happen, or we think maybe the worst is going to come of something. That if we can back away from thinking that we know everything there's actually a safety in that. Because in not knowing, there's this potential for something really amazing. And so coming back to this idea of caring for without controlling, it comes back to our intention. And the Dalai Lama says, my intention is my protection. And I remind myself of that a lot. My intention is my protection. Because if I'm caring for something deeply, and that care is coming from an intention to just fully love, to fully be present, to fully understand somebody or something, then the outcome of that caring is really out of my hands. And they speak to this in the sacred text, the Bhagavad Gita. And the idea is surrendering the fruits of your actions. So surrendering the fruits of your actions, that means you may give and give and give out of love and care and compassion, and the end result may not be what you're wanting it to be. And I know that that can be deeply disheartening and disappointing. And yet, you can rest assured that you acted from a place of integrity, that you acted from a place of pure intention, of really wanting to serve the greatest good. You're caring. And I think the more we can live from this place of care without control, there's a freedom that grows. That we're really loving life. And from this place of love, our actions create, or at least plant, good seeds. And we water it with our intention. And yet the plant that flowers out may not be exactly what we thought we planted in the ground. And yet it can still be beautiful. And sometimes maybe weeds grow around it and we don't expect that to happen. And that can be frustrating. And yet we keep going back to, okay, I'm planting these good seeds. I'm watering these good seeds. And with time, beautiful things really do grow. And yet we can't control the growth. There's got to be a sense of trust in it all. And I know that from my own experience, the trust piece is a challenge. To trust in that life, there's an intelligence in the universe. For those of you who are religious, trusting in God, Jesus, the Buddha, whatever it is that you put your trust in, of that goodness, that it's going to end up serving the greater good. You can trust that the outcome will be okay, even if it's not what you had planned or what you wanted or expected. That you can always come back, you can take that step back and rest in the fact that my intention was pure, my intention was loving, my intention was one of great care. And I think it's a good thing to just remember every once in a while to just say, what is my intention with all of this? And sometimes, we may notice that our intention isn't completely pure. Maybe there is some ego involved in it. And like, ooh, if I do this, maybe I'll get a lot of likes on Facebook, or maybe I'll get some money for this, or, and that's okay. We just notice that and come back to, well, is there a deeper intention with it? Now, if our only desire is just to get money and to get a lot of likes, then we're probably going to be disappointed, right? If we're doing that with that sense of control, then oftentimes the end result leads to some more suffering. And yet if we can notice that maybe that's a small piece of it, and yet the deeper intention really is to do something for the greater good, to serve humanity in some positive way, to take care of Mother Earth, whatever it might be. So it's okay to sometimes notice that, oh, what if I'm not completely in that place of 100% caring? But what if there is that element of wanting to control and manipulate in some way? And it's like, well, that's where mindfulness comes in, and some compassion of, okay, that's okay that that's there too. And yet I know I'm in touch with an even deeper intention. So it's almost like that need to control is like a sideshow, but the center stage is that yearning to do good. And we can rest in that yearning to do good. And we can allow that yearning to do good to motivate us, to drive our actions, to drive our behavior and how we relate to others. And so I just encourage you to think about that. You know, the things that you're doing in your life, is it coming from a need to control in some way, or is it coming from a place of deep caring? And more, just trying to get in touch with that place that truly cares and loves life, loves your own precious life, loves the life of others, loves the life of our earth. And that we can bit by bit begin to trust in that place, and trust that when we do live our lives from this deeper sense of caring and this kind of faith, that this will hold us. This will, even if the outcome isn't as we want it to be, we can trust that it's going to serve some greater good, and that it came from a seed that was planted with love and great care. So I just wanted to share that today, and I hope that you have a wonderful month. And please share this with as many people as you would like to. I'm no longer on social media. After watching The Social Dilemma, I just decided to pull myself away from that for the time being. And I want to connect, with you through this way, I guess, this video format. And you can always email, because I want to do more connection through either talking, if you want to communicate face to face through FaceTime, or, well, it's funny that we say face to face is FaceTime these days. It's the age that we're living in, but talking on the phone, just really relating human to human, as opposed to relying on a social media platform to do that. So hopefully we can create this kind of safer, more personal connection this way. And again, if you want to forward this to your friends through email or share my website, that would be lovely as well. And I do one-on-one consulting with teaching people how to live with more mindfulness and compassion for themselves, learning how to do meditation practice and implement it into your lives in practical ways. And just to update you on what I've been doing this past month, I've reached out to the NCAA gymnastics community to try to bring my transition sport, so the Who Am I Now sport that I created for athletes transitioning out of sport. I've introduced that to some collegiate coaches, and I'm also marketing the Mindfulness in Sport course more in hopes to really bring these mindfulness practices into the gymnastics world and hopefully into the athletic arena as a whole. So thank you so much for connecting with me here, and I hope to be in touch.